Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:06 on this Thursday morning. Thanks for tuning in. Good to talk with you, as it is every single morning. Coming up at 7:05, Scott Parkinson running for U.S. Senate in Virginia. 7:35, Senator Roger Marshall on the Mayorkas impeachment plans. 8:05, Link Lauren, friend of ours who does social media political commentary, now working on behalf of the Kennedy campaign. And at 8:35, Susan Wise Bauer, brand new book, The Well-Trained Mind, classic handbook on homeschooling. I'm Larry O'Connor, alongside Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, you ever consider homeschooling your brood of daughters?
That's funny. No, look, I think my daughters once told me, because they asked, they said, do you want to be Mom, what do you think about homeschooling? And I was like, honey, the only thing I can teach you is how to write a press release and and some talking points for, presidential candidates or politicians. I mean, it comes with good use in this town, don't you think, Larry?
I mean, first of all, for some people, that's all they really need. That's more skill sets that people are getting coming out of regular public government schools. So I would sign up for this.
For a well-trained mind, you're going to need a lot more than just writing a press release and, and getting and being able to get on TV and,
yes,
give some talking points type of thing, or give an answer.
We will certainly get into that. And if you do want to homeschool me later, we'll get some tips as we listen.
Oh, honey, you need a lot of homeschooling, that's for sure.
Listen, I want to start with what appears to be a desperate attempt by the media, Democrats, the left, Marxists all across the board, to turn the summer of 2024 into the summer of 2020, and not the whole fake pandemic, fake virus, fake masking sort of thing that forced everybody to socially distance, and therefore we couldn't possibly have people vote like normal people. We're going to have to open up mail-in ballots and then throw out all kinds of verification of those ballots. No, not that summer of 2020, although they are going to try to do that too. No, I'm talking about the George Floyd riots that were, fiery but mostly peaceful. Their attempts to turn 2024 into a divisive race war seems to be focused on the death of Dexter Reed, stopped at a traffic stop in Chicago last month. Now, let's just be clear. This is in Chicago. I know that Jussie Smollett and everyone around the country wants to call Chicago MAGA country. But Chicago is and has been run by left-wing Marxist Democrats for decades now. If there is so-called systemic racism that results in the death of a innocent young black man just minding his own business, then one can only point to the Democrats who have created that atmosphere in that city. Of course, I reject the premise. That's not what's happening in Chicago, and certainly not what happened to Dexter Reed. Dexter Reed was pulled over by the police, and during the traffic stop, Dexter Reed refused to leave his car, rolled up his tinted windows, and the police officer commanded him not to roll up the tinted windows, and then opened fire on the police officers from within his vehicle. 11 of his shots were fired. The police who had surrounded the vehicle then engaged, as they are trained to do if someone opened fires on them, and they shot him dead. Yesterday, his mother appeared in front of a courtroom because, of course, now she is wanting to sue the city of Chicago and the police department and bring people out into the streets to burn down drugstores. She was adorned in all black with dark sunglasses and what can only be described as dyed orange hair or perhaps an orange wig. I'm not sure.
He had just bought his new car 3 days before that, and he was just riding around in his car. He said, Mom, going for a ride. And they killed him.
And then she collapsed onto the sidewalk, pretending as though she had fainted in the trauma. And the media is looking at this not with any scrutiny and not with any facts, Mercedes. The media is playing this up and trying to broadcast her as this victim of racist white cops. And again, this is the kind of division that they are creating in this country, completely disregarding the facts of this case, and it's outrageous. But then my question for you is it going to work? Because it always seems to work for them.
It does seem to work for them if the media just spends hours and hours and hours on this type of of incident, for example. Look, it's tragic that a guy had to die. That he was shot. That there was the mere fact that he shot the cops first. It's obviously this is a type of crime. These are the type of incidents that we don't want to see in any of our communities. Yeah. But to turn this into like a political fight, or if we start seeing, cities burn down, that's when I think you'll see more of the media attention on it. But, right now, the way I'm seeing the news cycle, and you're seeing it, Larry, too, they're moving pretty quickly, and their big focus is let's focus on the abortion issue, which seems to be their big issue in many of these states. So I'm curious to see if this one will last long in the media, and if they're able to push out their sense of how can the Democrats win on this issue? If you're saying, crime is up, and then they've already demonized the police once. What are they going to do? Try to demonize the police twice? I don't see how that's going to work.
The media will go, if this is all they've got, they certainly can't tell the American people about what a great economy we have, or how safe our streets are, and how secure our border is. So this is all they've got. It is tragic that 26-year-old Dexter Reed died in this incident, but I'll be honest with you, it would have been more tragic if a family waiting at home for their father or mother, who was a police officer, had to get the news that mom and dad aren't coming home because they got killed by Dexter Reed. When you fire on a cop, things are going to happen. And even in the Chicago Sun-Times, no friend to the police or any sense of law and order in that town, describes the Civilian Office of Police Accountability's report on what happened. 5 tactical officers stopped 26-year-old Dexter Reed on West Ferdinand Street for an alleged seatbelt violation. Now, let me pause there. You might not like the fact that cops can pull you over for a seatbelt violation. I don't like it either. Change the law. It was, but just so you know, it wasn't conservative Republicans who insisted on having seatbelt laws. We kind of like freedom and liberty. And if you want to drive around with a seatbelt, you should be able to do that. But if you don't like the fact that cops will pull you over for a seatbelt law, then maybe you should worry about that instead. That being said, they surrounded his car. He shot one of the officers in the hand. So one of the cops actually got shot by this kid from inside his car. And the cops don't know who else is in the car because it has tinted windows. They don't know what kind of weaponry is in there. They don't know. All they know is the person inside this car is now shooting at us, and one of the cops actually got injured. The other cops fired what they're saying nearly 100 rounds. It was something like 90 rounds, 5 officers. That's what they're trained to do. And Reed was killed in the gunfire. By the way, he fired 11 runs. He fired 11 rounds out of his gun at the cops.
Right. So the question is why? I mean, don't shoot the cop.
Don't shoot the cops. Don't shoot the cops. Basic. And when they tell you to get out of the car, get out of the car.
Get out of the car. And they won't, and then of course what they'll do is there will be this whole conversation about, because the police are targeting, Black men, and this is discriminatory. So, but the reality is Chicago right now is a disaster when it comes to even the fact that they don't even have enough cops right now because they have really demoralized and demonized the police force. And the reality is that the crime situation in Chicago last night, I'll tell you, we were at an event. I talked to two couples. They both moved out of Chicago. They're like, we couldn't stay there anymore. And they left to Arizona. It's unsustainable. And here you have this kid, this man who was shot, didn't pay attention to what the cops are telling him to do. And then all of a sudden it becomes it's the police's fault.
Yeah. The body cam footage has been released. It's clear what happened. Everyone sees it, but the media is going to distort this, twist it. There will be marches. There will be riots. Al Sharpton, on behalf of MSNBC, will be leading the way, and they are trying to move us into this. If it's not this incident, there's another. But this happens every 4 years. This happens because this is what they try to do to create racial tensions in this country. And right now, Donald Trump is doing very well with black men, specifically black men, male black voters, and they'll do whatever they can to try to blame this on Trump and Republicans and tell young black men that it's the systemic racism of this country that is their enemy, and somehow they think that translates into Democrat votes. considering the fact that if there's systemic racism in Chicago, it's because of the Democrats. It's 5:15 WMAL traffic and weather.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 p.m.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
I'll tell you, Mercedes, what the other part of this strategy is, if I may. I think that part of what they want to do is create this incident, put it in the news, and then at some point a Republican of some stripe at the House or Senate level, or maybe even candidate President Trump, will say something. He'll be asked about this. He'll say something about it that will then be either inartful or twisted out of proportion to make it look like Republicans are unfeeling, uncompassionate, racist, or whatever you want to say, which, again, the only thing that any Republican candidate, can I just give them free advice? You actually get paid for this kind of comms advice, Mercedes. Any Republican asked about the shooting in Chicago, their only response, and it should be the only thing out of their mouth, and then they should not respond to any other questions about it, should be exactly what you said, Mercedes, which is don't shoot at cops.
Yeah,
That's
don't
all.
shoot at cops.
That's
Yeah.
all. Don't shoot at cops.
Yeah. Well, look, they always say, well, what's going to be next? Is it going to be the next pandemic? Is it, is that going to be the big, there's always that big October surprise. What is that going to be?
Yeah.
And I think, we have a long way to go. I know this is what I'm hearing, what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling happening in the narrative of the news. It's all about abortion in these states.
Yes.
The Democrats are
they're
going to
trying
only
that
hone in on the culture of death and talk about abortion rights and how extreme Republicans are. And it's why you've seen, Donald Trump coming out and giving his position on abortion, which actually has created a bit of tension on the right, which has been very, which is very interesting. You've got those that are saying, wait a second, why isn't he supporting a federal ban? And then those saying, well, wait a second, he's going forth and saying it's the will of the people at the level of the state.
Right.
Which I think makes sense. And so, I really do believe, while they're trying to push maybe this narrative on, anti-cop again, they're going to maybe try that route. I do think the Democrats' focus is going to be on abortion.
You're right. And I want to get into that a little.
And the threat to democracy, that, Trump is going to be the threat to democracy. But
I want to get into that a little later. I want to focus right now, since we are on the race divisions that they're trying. And yesterday, President Trump, he went to an Atlanta area Chik-Fil-A in a predominantly black neighborhood with the entire staff made up of black employees. And it was actually a great photo op.
So can I have 30 milkshakes and also some chicken? I'm going to take care of the customers. Is business good? You're making a lot of money? Everyone, you're getting rich, right?
Can I, if you didn't hear it, this is a power order when you go up to Chick-fil-A. You lead with the milkshakes. Can I have 30 milkshakes?
30 milkshakes.
And also some chicken.
Yeah.
That's the perfect Chick-fil-A order. And then he says, business good? You're making a lot of money? You're going to get rich? This is great.
He's like, it's the Lord's chicken. Doesn't he say something along those? It's the Lord's chicken.
Here's a little more.
So we'll order 30 milkshakes. We'll give them out to the people and we'll take some for ourselves, okay? Good. Thank you very much, everybody. Hello.
This has got a great American franchise, Chick-fil-A.
It is. It's a great franchise. The owner is a great man who is a member of one of my clubs, and he's fantastic. And, they do very well. They're closed on Sunday.
The Lord's Chicken.
That's the Lord's Chicken. You're right. It's good chicken, too.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the idea of Lord's Chicken was planted by one of the patrons, but he jumped right on it. It's the Lord's.
He's the best. This is where he shines. He shines when he does these they're kind of off the record, off the record, but they're not
on
off
the cuff, unscripted. He's not reading cards or a teleprompter like mashed potato brains. He and then a young black woman who was just there to get her own milkshake and Chick-fil-A sandwich. Young black woman just emerged from the crowd of patrons and.
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We support you, man.
Okay, 4 p.m. 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a
She steps out and she says, I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump, we support you. And Trump said, come here, let me give you a hug.
I know.
So
look, I think this is where
he just needs to do that. While they all try to divide us,
But they won't. Here's the thing: they won't cover it. Like the media will not cover it. You go into like the MSNBC website, and everything is Trump on trial. That's what they're obsessed with. They don't in any way show who the real man is. And look, I worked for him. You've interviewed him. He's an imperfect guy. I'm not, but the reality is that the guy he connects with people, and he really loves this country, and he wants to do good by this country, and he doesn't like the direction that this country's going in.
You're right that MSNBC doesn't cover this. The good news is nobody watches MSNBC. The only people who watch MSNBC have already made up their minds. More people are getting their media from social media and social media outlets, and that video of the woman saying, "We support you, Donald Trump," and him giving her a hug at Chik-Fil-A, that's getting more coverage than anything Rachel Maddow had to say last night. It's 5:23.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:36, Thursday, the 11th day of April. 4/11. 4/11. Doesn't that rings a bell, 4/11. Why does 4/11 ring a bell? It's April 11th. Coming up at 7:05, Scott Parkinson running for Senate in Virginia. 7:35, Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas. At 8:05, Link Lauren, who is now a surrogate for RFK. We're going to find out what's going on with the Kennedy campaign. And at 8:35, Susan Wise Bauer, her new book, The Well-Trained Mind. If you're a homeschooling parent, you know that book, and you're going to want to hear about some updates to it. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside non-homeschooling parent Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercedes.
I love the homeschooling parents.
They're great.
I would, let me tell you, if I could, I would attend all of Heather Hunter's classes. Yes. I think it would be a wealth of information.
Our executive producer homeschools her two little daughters, and something tells me they learn more every day than you and I do on a regular basis.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yes.
She should actually. You know what? She could live stream her lessons.
Oh,
make
my
a little
goodness.
money. People would pay for it. Got to get some income going there. We work in radio. We all have multiple streams of income when you're in radio. Trust me.
You need to. Believe me. Maybe becoming a homeschool parent would be one of my future options.
I made some bad life choices somewhere along the way, Mercedes.
Tell me about your problems,
I have
Larry.
worked my entire career in one form of media, entertainment, or communications. And then for the first 18 to 20 years of my career, I worked in entertainment. And did I pick film, television, music? Nope. I picked the one category of entertainment that pays nothing, theater. I worked in theater. And then I get into media and communications. Did I go to cable news? Did I go to broadcast news? Did I work for a major? Nope. Radio. What I can continue to hear is a dying art form. And yet somehow we here at WMAL, we continue to kick everyone else's butt and dominate the daily conversation in the nation's capital. So I have hope.
Am I your therapist on this?
I feel a lot better.
Yes, Larry. Yes. You know what? God has a plan for you, Larry. That's why you're supposed to be on radio. You're doing great, Larry.
If that plan put me in your path, Mercedes, so that we could be friends.
I agree. I love it. I love radio.
It all works out.
People feel connected to radio.
You know who else loves radio? One of the commissioners of the FCC, Brendan Carr. He's a good man, and his job is to oversee communications in this country, including radio communications. And he has been trying to fight the fight against net neutrality. Now, you'll remember when we finally got a Republican majority on FCC, net neutrality was killed. Chairman Ajit Pai at the time was the leading force to get rid of net neutrality because net neutrality was not neutral. In fact, it tipped the scales for big corporations to be able to control what was going on the internet and how it was delivered, even though opponents or proponents of net neutrality literally said the opposite because, the left always lies. Here's the great thing, though. At the time, they said the internet would be killed, right? I think it's been 6 years now, and I think the internet's thriving. Quite well, thank you very much. If anything, growing by leaps and bounds. There's more competition. There's more opportunity. Well, the FCC is now proposing, since they have a Democrat majority, to bring back the bad old days of net neutrality. The corporate lobbyists for Facebook, Meta, met before the FCC. They were lobbying on behalf of this. So Facebook wants this. That tells you everything you should know about how bad net neutrality is. And they wanted, to be able to have more control and to be able to have more bullying power and less competition. Brendan Carr points this out, though. Look at this. This is from entrepreneur.com. A local Kansas newspaper called the Kansas Reflector wrote an article critical of Meta, critical of Facebook, and much of their efforts in trying to push net neutrality. The next day, Meta blocked every post on Facebook from that publication. They censored the publication after they wrote an article critical of Facebook and critical of Meta. This is exactly who they are. This is exactly what they do. And if they got their net neutrality, it would get even worse.
Well, and wait a second. And the tech giant said it was accidental.
Oh, of course it's
due
always
to a
accidental.
security error. Links to the @Kansas Reflector were blocked for a period of time. Oops, sorry. Yeah. We're so sad that we blocked you guys. I mean, it shows the immense power that Meta and Facebook that they have over what you would say a local news organization.
That's right. And that's just one little microcosm in a little newspaper in Kansas, right? Look at what they did and what they agreed to do under pressure from the Biden administration during the 2020 election with the Hunter Biden laptop story. Look at what they've done to conservative sites. I work for a conservative outlet at Town Hall Media. Our exposure, we have multiple Facebook accounts with Red State, Hot Air, Town Hall, PJ Media, Twitchy. The exposure, the distribution, and revenue on Facebook, like 5 months ago, just like someone flipped a switch and suddenly everything dried up. And those 100%. Facebook accounts have millions of followers.
Yeah.
And they can turn a switch and your stuff will not be seen. Not sure what happened. I mean, you guys at CPAC and ACU, you stream your show on Facebook often.
Yeah.
But at this point, I mean, we're not seeing any growth there. I don't know if you're seeing the growth there or not, but they are trying to silence conservative voices because they can.
Well, it's election time. It's what they're going to do. And the reality is you go, for example, you even go to, if you're going to put in a topic or in terms of a news article or anything like that, it's going to pop up, CNN, MSNBC, Daily Beast, Salon. It is all the leftist propaganda. And it just shows what a disadvantage conservatives are in this area of being able to distribute their content to like-minded people. And it is a big challenge that we have faced from pretty much from day one. And I just think it only keeps getting worse.
The next FCC meeting is April 25th. That's the open meeting where they will consider and vote on this proposal. It will basically make broadband internet a public utility that has complete and total oversight by the FCC under their Title II authority. The chairwoman, Rosenworcel, said, by the way, full disclosure, she's married to my lawyer. But we disagree on these things. Chairwoman of the FCC said the pandemic proved once and for all that broadband is essential, and the prior administration abdicated authority over broadband services. Hold on a minute. Last I checked, broadband services during the pandemic was a miracle. They were perfect. They were vital. They actually delivered. They stepped up. They came through. If there was a problem, sure, the FCC should come in and fix it. But there was no problem during the pandemic. In fact, during the pandemic, private enterprise from broadband delivery to Amazon to shipping to UPS, they stepped up and they showed what a miracle free market and private industry is. This is the last thing we need is for the government to come in and take over. It's outrageous.
This is very problematic. But the chairwoman basically said after the prior administration abdicated authority over broadband services, the FCC has been handcuffed from acting to fully secure broadband networks, protect consumer data, and ensure the internet remains fast, open, and fair.
If they can show me one problem that they're trying to solve here, I mean, it's all, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens? Some pretty bad things have happened when the companies do have control over this stuff. And anyway, it's fine. We'll continue to follow this. Maybe we'll get Brendan Carr on to talk about it as well.
Yes.
Coming up in a minute, we're going to tell you about the latest scandal out of Loudoun County Public Schools and what appears to be, again, lack of transparency with parents, this time over a teacher accused of a sex crime with a minor. That's coming up in a moment. First, though, it's 5:45. So the latest scandal out of Loudoun County Public Schools is reported by Nick Minnock, of course, WJLA. Take a listen.
7 News on your side is asking Loudoun County Public Schools, when was the first time they notified parents of a teacher who is accused of soliciting a child under the age of 15 years old online? William Smallwood is a teacher at Heritage High School, and he's currently suspended without pay. Smallwood was arrested last week, a day after a Frederick County grand jury indicted him with a felony for the alleged sex crime in July. After 7 News' original reporting about the arrest, the Heritage High School principal told families that investigators originally contacted LCPS in August 2023 and told them about the criminal investigation. But it's unclear if LCPS notified families about the allegations before this week.
So we're going to continue with the report in a moment, Mercedes, but let me unpack it for you. In August, the principal of this high school knew that one of the teachers was under investigation for soliciting sex from a minor. And I want to be clear, there's no evidence or reporting right now that suggests that anything untoward happened with a student at the high school. But the principal knew there was an investigation into a teacher and sexual misconduct with a minor. But it appears the parents weren't notified about this. Nothing was done to the teacher or with the teacher, and parents weren't notified until the grand jury actually came down with their indictment this week. Mercedes, it seems to me that even if there's an investigation, understand everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But if there's an investigation into something this serious, you got to be precautious. You've got to actually remove that person while the investigation continues from a classroom full of young high school students, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, this is very concerning. I think, especially when you're dealing in any case like this, but especially when you're dealing with minors, and you have to ask yourself with these public school, with the administration of the public schools, like, why wait to provide? You want to provide the notice. Obviously, the man was put on leave. He wasn't getting paid. And there was a reason why he's out, and so parents have the right to know,
right?
Why the individual is no longer part of the school.
Parents should have known, so they could talk to their kids and say, "Hey, did you notice anything? Did he say anything to you? Did you know what I mean?" And again,
Larry,
innocent until proven guilty only applies to criminal punishment, but that doesn't mean you don't take precautions in a workplace to make sure that there's been no damage.
Well, the other piece of this is that it's Loudoun County Public Schools.
Right.
There seems to be like a common thread with Loudoun County, and the fact is that we've seen time and time again just so many issues coming out of this particular school district where they don't notify the parents about whether it's anything about if your child is if the issues that we saw, for example, the case of the rape in the bathrooms, or the assault in the bathrooms. It's like all these issues with the gender questions and all of that. They have done a horrible job of communicating to parents, and just they believe that they're the authoritarian figures making these decisions without consulting the parents.
That's
and I think
right.
it's very problematic.
Well said. It is this ongoing, we know better than the parents about everything, about how to raise your children, about when to talk to your children about sex, whether your child should be reprogrammed to think that they're a different sex. All across the board, they know better than you, and you don't even have a right to know. We'll let Nick Minnock finish up the report here.
7 News on your side sent a question to Loudoun County Public Schools asking them when they first notified parents about the investigation and the alleged crime, but they have not responded. Now, the Heritage High School principal did note in his email that the high school is not included in this indictment. Reporting in Ashburn, Nick Minnock, 7 News.
Now, this wouldn't be the first time Loudoun County Public Schools didn't immediately notify parents of potential safety issues. Late last year, Superintendent Aaron Spence delayed notification to parents about a string of student overdoses, which prompted the governor and lawmakers to take action.
Unbelievable. Well, we'll continue to keep our eyes on that story, too. But still, there are systemic problems in Loudoun County Public Schools with regard to transparency and communications and the parents' right to know. And parents need to stay on them because they will continue this behavior until they're told otherwise. And you need to tell them otherwise. 5:53.